hey, it worked with Annabelle. The first one was shit, the second one was a lot better. Maybe they could have done the same with The Nun. Yo guys, welcome to my review of The Nun 2. Alright, as I said before, the first Nun movie was not that great. I have watched it once in the movie theater. I thought it was pretty okay back then. Watched it again to watch this movie and it was not that good anymore. Then I went to watch the second one and I have to say, the second movie improves on the first one on a lot of things. But it also really fails on some other things. For example, one thing I really liked was the tension and was the scares. It felt more personal in this. There were some scares that I actually genuinely was terrified of. Not terrified in a way like I could not watch it because I am a sucker for horror movies and it's really hard to scare me in a horror movie. But there were some moments where even I said like, ish, and that has mainly got to do not with the nun, but with a goat. If you have seen the movie, you will know what goat I mean. That goat was freaking terrifying. Some other things I liked was that it felt more personal, and I really liked it. It felt more personal for the inclusion of the kids, the inclusion of Irene and the guy that it was all about. I really liked the dynamics between those three, four things, and that really worked well together. Sadly enough, they just go so generic on so many of those storylines. I mean, we all know that the man was possessed because we saw it in the last movie, so this movie did not have to make a mystery about it, but they kind of still did in the beginning and was like, yeah, of course, we know it. We all know what's going to happen. And they set up these things to have us emotionally attached to the characters. But we know they're already going to go bad, so it doesn't hurt us when it actually goes to shit. A little better writing could have solved the problem by just not giving us those bonding scenes in the way they have set them up. I mean, you really do need to have bonding scenes. Don't get me wrong on that. But if you already know that the bonding scenes are going to get used to make you feel hurt in the end instead of just being a nice inclusion to the movie for other reasons than just, hey, I'm going to make you cry in the end, then it's not going to work. So that's what this movie did wrong. The writing is all over the place. On another note, Sister Irene really felt out of place in her own movie. I mean, this is her franchise, but I really didn't know what she was doing there the entire time. She had Storm Reed with her. That was a nice inclusion. The dynamic between those two was kind of nice, but she was just there for most of the time, not doing anything for the story, for the plots, for the nun, for Frenchie, this man. So what was the point of her having her there apart from in the end? I mean, we all know you gotta have a build-up on why is she there, but was she really necessary in this movie if she's only there for the ending? I don't know. On the third part, I really did not like what they did with the nun in most of the scenes. Like, why would this happen and why did some things go the way they did in this movie? It really had me scratching my head on some of the choices they made for the story on why certain things would happen apart from for the sake of just having jump scares the entire time. This movie is full of jump scares, but most of them are not really that justified. They did add a lot of gore in this movie, which I actually quite like, or the gore was something that the movie was heavily advertised on. It was going to be gory. It was going to be one of the most gory movies in the Conjuring franchise. I really did not feel like that was the case though. The gore they had was pretty gruesome, was pretty good, but it was so splattered, pun intended, throughout this movie that you just could not find them really. If you think about it back, it's gonna be 2 or 3 scenes where blood was spilled in a gruesome way, and that's it. What happened with all those articles? Are those 3 scenes the only thing the critics saw? I don't know. The way I see it is that The Nun 1 really did not have a great first and second act, but had a great third act. This movie has it the other way around. The first and second act were kind of interesting, were kind of good, but they kind of gave up near the end in the third act, making the third act more forgettable than the first one, even though a lot more happened in this one that I just thought was weird. I mean, I get what they were trying to do, turn the wine, and blah, 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 but still it did not make any sense. And I am not a Christian, so maybe I just didn't get it. But I feel like there were ways that they were just trying to get this movie out and trying to end this movie on what terms they could possibly think of. Also thinking about the post-credits scene in the first Nun movie. You know what happened in that, what happened to Frenchie in that post-credits scene. So the movie has to start here, but also has to end in a certain way that still makes sense to that story. So actually, nothing really happens that was of significant value. Because the beginning of this movie and the ending of this movie and the ending of the first one and the ending of this one is exactly the same in another location. So if you are a big fan of the Conjuring franchise, this movie might be for you. But if you did not like The Nun 1, you're not gonna like The Nun number 2. So this movie, sadly enough, is skippable. You don't have to watch it. Alright, have you seen The Nun 2? Please let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was great? And where does it rank in your Conjuring franchise ranking? Please let me know in the comments down below. I am really excited to hear your opinions on it. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.